Hello everyone, welcome back to another chronicle of horrific fates. In this chronicle, I will tell you about 4 tragic and horrific stories where people met horrific fates. For the second story, I will show you CCTV footage of what happened. It may be disturbing to some, so if that is the case, you may want to skip it. For the rest, viewer discretion is advised. The Industrial Revolution was a time of unparalleled progress, transforming the world from small agricultural communities into bustling centers of mechanized production. Many of the things we rely on today would not exist if it weren't for this pivotal era. It was one of the most significant advancements in human history. However, it also had a dark side, marked by the exploitation of child labor and severely unsafe working environments. Children during this time worked long hours for extremely low wages that barely covered the cost of living, and they had practically no rights in the workplace. Factories, mines, and other industrial workplaces prioritized production and profits over employee safety, which often resulted in injuries, illnesses, and even deaths. Many factory owners would hire orphans, as these children were seen as a cheap, compliant source of labor. Their vulnerability made them easy to exploit. Tragically, these children were often worked to death, and when they did die, factory owners would sometimes cover it up and dispose of their bodies in secret, ensuring no one could find them. The remains of dozens of these child laborers, some as young as 8, have been discovered in recent years, revealing the harsh realities they endured. Known as pauper apprentices, these children played a significant role in the transition from handmade to machine-produced goods. They have been called the forgotten children of the past, and their skeletal remains provide evidence of diseases and injuries caused by the dangerous and grueling labor they performed. One of these tragic stories is that of Mary Richards, a young girl who worked in a factory during the Industrial Revolution. Her death was documented by the writer John Brown in 1828. Mary, described as remarkably pretty when she left the workhouse, was not yet 10 years old when she began working at a cotton factory. Her job was to attend a drawing frame, a machine powered by a horizontal shaft located about a foot from the floor. One evening, her apron became caught in the shaft. In an instant, Mary was pulled into the machinery with immense force and dashed against the floor. She screamed in agony as the factory overseer ran toward her, helpless to stop the horror unfolding before him. Mary was whirled around and around by the shaft, her bones snapping one by one, her arms, legs, and thighs crushed as the machine spun her tighter and tighter into its mechanisms. Her blood splattered across the machinery and streamed onto the floor. Her head was ultimately smashed to pieces. The force of her body being wedged into the machine jammed the main shaft, bringing the factory to a halt. When they finally managed to free her, Mary's body was completely mangled. Every bone was broken and her head was crushed. She was carried away lifeless, a tragic victim of an industry that valued efficiency over human life. Another devastating incident during the Husker colliery disaster of 1838. On July 4th in Silkstone, England, a severe thunderstorm caused a nearby stream to flood a ventilation shaft in the Husker coal mine. Inside the mine, 40 child workers aged between 7 and 17 scrambled to escape the rising water. Tragically, 26 of them, 11 girls and 15 boys, were overwhelmed and drowned, and some were trampled by the other children trying to rush out the mine. Investigations following the disaster revealed that basic safety measures could have prevented the tragedy. These are just a few of the many stories of children who met horrific fates in unsafe factories and mines during the Industrial Revolution. A 30-year-old woman named Xiang and her 2-year-old son Tong Tong and her husband Zhang were out shopping at the AZG Mall in Jingzhou, Hubei Province in China. A very big mall and quite a popular one. It was the first mall that Xiang would bring her son to. She and her husband wanted to make it a fun experience for Tong Tong. The three wandered through the mall, pausing at a few shops. Tong Tong tugged at Xiang's hand, at the colorful displays and sparkling lights. Xiang's smile never left her face as she lovingly guided her son through the bustling corridors. Xiang walked a few steps behind, enjoying the simple joy of watching them interact. Eventually, they approached the escalator leading to the upper floor. This would be the first time Tong Tong would ever go up an escalator. Very eager to go up, he wanted to try it, so they started to ascend. Xiang, the husband, went up first, and behind them was Xiang and Tong Tong. When Xiang got to the top and stepped off the escalator, Xiang and Tong Tong were just a few feet behind him. A staff member told her, "Pick up your kid when you get off because the escalator is a bit damaged," carefully lifting Tong Tong as they neared the end of the escalator. To note, an escalator works by using a motor to pull a chain that moves the steps in a loop. At the top and the bottom, flat panels cover the moving parts to keep everyone safe. If one of these panels is loose, it can expose the gears and the chains underneath, which can be very dangerous. What I am about to show you is what the CCTV camera caught right after this. When Xiang reached the top, the metal panel gave away. In an instant, chaos erupted. The floor beneath Xiang's feet collapsed, revealing the gaping machinery of the escalator below. She stumbled, clutching Tong Tong with both hands. In one swift motion, she pushed Tong Tong toward a nearby mall employee. The employee caught the child just as the machinery below began to pull Xiang downward. Xiang and the other employee tried desperately to pull her up, while a second employee attempted to turn off the escalator, but it was too late. She was caught in the machinery, consumed by the escalator. Her death was excruciating, but over in a mere seconds. There were no safety signs on the escalator warning that it was unsafe, and no employee told her to avoid it. It was later discovered that just 5 minutes before this tragedy, 2 employees had gone up the exact same escalator and almost fell through the same panel. Despite this, the escalator was still running. It took the maintenance crew 5 hours to disassemble the escalator to find Xiang's body. A day where a family was supposed to create fun memories turned into a day of pure nightmare, which could have all been avoided with just a simple warning sign. Death Valley, located in eastern California near the Nevada border, is one of the most extreme environments on Earth. It holds the record for the hottest temperature ever recorded on the planet, 134 Fahrenheit. In the summer, temperatures regularly reach 115 degrees or higher, and as recently as 2020, the temperature hit 133 degrees. Despite these harsh conditions, Death Valley is a place of incredible beauty. Its unique terrain and beautiful landscapes attract thousands of visitors each year, whether to camp, hike, or simply pass through to admire its scenery. Among those drawn to Death Valley was a 28-year-old nurse from Las Vegas, Alicia Sanchez, along with her 11-year-old son Carlos and their pet dog. In August 2009, Alicia planned an overnight camping trip to Death Valley National Park. She had taken her son on a few other camping trips before, so they had some experience with outdoor adventures. Excited to share this new journey with her son, Alicia packed the car with supplies that she thought would be more than enough for a short trip. The two look forward to exploring the vast desert, marveling at its rock formations, and enjoying the peaceful horizon. Carlos, full of energy, brought along his favorite toys, eager to make this trip even more fun. He was especially thrilled because this time they were bringing their dog along for the first time. Before heading out, Alicia told her family about her plans. She mentioned she was going to camp and visit Scotty's Castle, a historic site within the park. Her family wished her a fun trip. For their supplies, she packed 24 bottles of water, cheese sandwiches, Pop-Tarts, and extra clothes. She also brought an electric GPS to help guide their route, but notably, she didn't bring a map of the area. They left Las Vegas on Saturday, August 1st, 2009, for what should have been a straightforward drive. The distance to Death Valley National Park is about 120 miles, typically a 2-3 hour drive. Alicia followed her GPS carefully, trusting its directions as it guided her onto lesser used roads. At some point, the GPS instructed her to turn onto a dirt road. She listened and took the turn, unaware that this decision would take her far off the main roads and deep into the remote desert, far from visitor centers or help. As they continued along the dirt road, suddenly one of her car tires went flat. Alicia stopped the car and got out to change it. Despite the intense desert heat, she successfully replaced the flat tire and left the damaged one on the side of the road with a water bottle beside it as a marker. She texted her family, letting them know she was in the desert and fixing a flat tire, but she didn't give her exact location or any other details about where she was heading. After fixing the tire, she continued driving, but the sandy terrain soon became too much for her vehicle. The Jeep Grand Cherokee got stuck in the deep sand, leaving them stranded in an area with no clear landmarks and no cell service. Trying to stay calm, Alicia decided to conserve the food and water they had, carefully rationing it for herself, Carlos, and their dog. But her situation started looking grim. August is one of the hottest months in Death Valley, with average daily temperatures soaring around 120 degrees Fahrenheit. With no map, no clear plan, and no one knowing their exact location, they could only wait and hope for rescue. Days passed and the unrelenting heat began to take its toll. For 5 grueling days, Alicia, Carlos, and their dog were exposed to the harsh, unforgiving desert environment. It wasn't until August 6th that a search party was finally sent out. Rescuers eventually found Alicia's car stuck in the sand. Inside, they discovered Alicia and the dog still alive, though weak and dehydrated. Tragically, Carlos was found lifeless beside them. They had run out of food and water, and the extreme heat proved too much for the boy. An autopsy confirmed he had died from heat stroke and severe dehydration. The aftermath of the tragedy raised questions. How did Carlos succumb to the elements while Alicia and the dog survived, even though she said she was rationing the water? Not only that, she was a nurse, so she would have been able to help Carlos. But after an investigation, the coroner officially ruled Carlos's death accidental. Dreamworld, located on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia, is one of the country's largest theme parks. Established in 1981, the park spans over 85 hectares and features a variety of rides, attractions, and entertainment for guests of all ages. One of Dreamworld's most iconic attractions, the Thunder River Rapids ride, was a family-friendly water ride stimulating whitewater rafting. The design of the ride may seem familiar if you've been to other amusement parks, as it resembles hundreds of other river rapid rides across the world. Many rides like this are made by Intamin, an amusement ride manufacturer and a highly respected company in the industry. In fact, Intamin pioneered the river rapids ride concept, with the first installation known as Thunder River debuting at Six Flags Astroworld in Houston, Texas in 1980. However, the Thunder River Rapids ride at Dreamworld was custom built by the park itself. Riders on the Thunder River Rapids ride would board circular 6-person rafts from a constantly rotating station platform. This allowed for easy boarding as the rafts didn't have to come to a complete stop. Once dispatched, the rafts moved at a modest pace, carrying riders along an artificial river featuring gentle rapids and splashes. The course of the ride followed a gentle downward gradient. This natural slope enabled the water in the channel to flow and propel the rafts without the need for a propulsion system. At the end of every circuit, the rafts needed to be returned to the top of the course, which was accomplished using a conveyor belt. The rafts were guided onto the conveyor and carried upwards, with the guests still on board. Once at the top, riders exited back onto the rotating station platform. Like the rafts, the water needed to be lifted to the top of the ride after completing the circuit. This was achieved by 2 powerful water pumps, a vital part of the ride's mechanics. On October 25th, 2016, a close-knit group of 5 visited Dreamworld. The group consisted of 42-year-old Cindy Lowe, a New Zealand-born mother living in Sydney, her 10-year-old son Kieran, and her friends, siblings Kate Goodchild, 32, and Luke Dorset, along with Luke's partner, Bruzy. They had been enjoying the park all day, riding several attractions before deciding to go onto the Thunder River Rapids ride. Unbeknownst to them, the ride was experiencing mechanical issues that day. Earlier, one of the 2 water pumps had failed, causing water levels in the channel to drop. Despite these problems, the ride continued to operate. As the group boarded their raft and began their journey, they laughed and enjoyed what was supposed to be a fun, relaxing experience. The ride seemed to go smoothly at first, with the raft navigating the gentle rapids and flowing sections of the river. But as the raft approached the end of the course, it reached the conveyor belt that would lift it back to the station. However, an empty raft ahead became stuck on the conveyor belt due to the low water levels caused by the pump failure. The group's raft collided with the stationary raft, and the impact caused their raft to tip and flip over. What followed was a tragic sequence of events. The adults were thrown from the raft and became trapped in the conveyor belt mechanism. The powerful machinery inflicted fatal injuries. Cindy, Kate, Luke, and Ruzi lost their lives instantly, while Karen and another child seated at the back of the raft miraculously survived without physical harm, but witnessed the horrifying incident. Investigations into the incident revealed multiple failings. The emergency stop button, which could have halted the conveyor, was not clearly marked or easily accessible, and the staff were not adequately trained to use it in emergencies. Furthermore, the ride lacked critical safety features, such as barriers to prevent rafts from flipping or passengers from being thrown into dangerous areas. The ride had experienced several malfunctions earlier that day, but they were not addressed, and it continued to operate. The Thunder River Rapids ride was permanently closed following the incident, and Dreamworld faced intense scrutiny over its safety protocols and maintenance practices.